My name is Kealakehe. I'm the Communications Director for the Teachers Union, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You're going to hear from a number of teachers at Kealakehe Elementary, including one of whom experienced the leak in her classroom just this week. This unfortunately has been a long-standing problem at the school with a number of plumbing issues, restrooms closed, leaks over the years. They're not able to get the situation under control, and it's been a very difficult situation for the students there as well as the educators. So we'd like to start off. I've shared the videos with you folks, some videos and some photos of two different incidents. The leak in a third grade classroom just this week. There's a video and a photo or two. And then just to show like this has been going on for years, there was another similar sewage leak in a different building with fourth grade classroom that happened in the 23-24 school year. And there are been many others. You're going to hear from these teachers in a minute about all of them. We wanted to start just by playing just very quickly that video, and then the teacher who was in that classroom is going to tell you what happened. So Chris, can you play that video please now? So that was Monday in the third grade classroom of Rabia Akhtar, who is a third grade teacher at Kealakehe Elementary. And we're going to have her pick up the story and explain what happened on Monday. Rabia?
Hi, my name is Rabia Akhtar. I'm a special education teacher at Kealakehe Elementary. I myself and my co-teacher are third grade teachers. We have 17 kids in our classroom. On Monday afternoon, Rose, my co-teacher and I were at a meeting with other teachers, and our class was being taught by our Hawaiian Studies Kumu. And she let us know at the very end of the day that one of the panels in the ceiling was dripping, not a little drip, but kind of spilling water. One of the students noticed it. A couple of the students started freaking out that they were getting like splashed on. So she took all of our students out of the classroom and just left one of the trash cans to collect the water. And then when we came back at the end of the day, I sent a message, an email, a very urgent email, and left a message on the walkie-talkie to our admin that it looked like the ceiling was going to collapse because it was so wet that it was like swelling up. And I made that video. I sent it to them. I didn't hear anything back. And then the next morning, my co-teacher came into the classroom, and it had already, the ceiling, whatever the panels are made of, were all crumbled and like soaking wet all over the ground and all over the desks. Luckily, we didn't have a student sitting at those desks, but the desks were covered in that. And the custodian came in to look at it. They didn't really tell us what was wrong, just that there was a leak in one of the bathrooms, and the smell was like not good. And they kind of left it that way for the morning, and I swept it up a little bit. We have students with special needs that have a really hard time staying still and listening to, looking away from something that's gross and smells bad. So they were complaining the whole day. The custodian came and cleaned it up by just kind of wiping everything down, sweeping it up, and then just spraying some Clorox on the floor and wiping the desks. And then the rest of the day and the whole next day, there was just the gaping hole in the ceiling. Kids were complaining that it smelled bad, that it was making them nauseous. One of them wanted to go to the nurse. And then the 19th, so the Wednesday, is when they actually came and replaced the panel so that the hole was closed. And the custodian said it was the teacher's bathroom upstairs. So they closed that bathroom, and I believe they also closed the boys' bathroom for students, which is next to it. So the third grade building only has the girls' bathroom open, and the kids have to find bathrooms downstairs or somewhere else. I did send many messages to our admin about it. They were doing the best they could. They told us they sent an emergency order about a previous leak 3 weeks ago that was never addressed. You can probably see it still still there. And they told us that it was on the emergency, like the top priority of DAGS, but that DAGS doesn't have a plumber. And so we've done everything we could do. So right now we're just waiting for more bathrooms. Is that good? Do we have our person to, do I
That's
pass it to Jill? Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. And you folks can certainly ask some questions of these teachers later on. If you have a question, just put your name in the chat and we'll call on you. Let's go next to Jill Jacob. She is also a third grade teacher at Kealakehe, and she's familiar with sort of how the leaks started in this building, where there are restrooms on the second floor right above these classrooms. And she'll talk about that and how it's really been a persistent problem for years, Jill.
Good afternoon. My name's Jill Jacobs. I teach third grade at Kealakehe Elementary, and I've been doing that for 10 years. And this problem is not new. When I moved to Hawaii in 2013, I was not teaching at Kealakehe, but I was friends with teachers who were teaching there in the now fourth grade building. And she would tell me very frequently of how when the urinal in the boys' bathroom above their classroom was flushed, they'd have a deluge of the sewage coming down into their classroom. Our problem in e-building, as far as I know, it might have happened before that, started in the fall of 2020 when we were in online school. And the only people on campus were teachers. And our teacher's bathroom, when it would be flushed, would drip down into the classroom that is now Rabia's classroom, previously another teacher's. And this has continued to persist. And the interim between it being fixed by DAGS, which is the Department of Accounting and General Services, is that they simply cut off the water to our bathrooms and we no longer have access to them. Sometimes it is all of the bathrooms, both student bathrooms and the teacher bathrooms, and the students will have to go find other bathrooms. Well, if this issue is happening in both the third and fourth grade building, they're having to go try to find the fifth grade building or go to the portables far out almost into the middle school that is next to our campus. Kids are scared to go to use the bathroom. Last year, I had a student who asked and she couldn't get to a working bathroom in time and she peed herself. This is an 8-year-old. That is insanely embarrassing. She came back to my classroom squatting down with her shirt pulled over her pants so other students wouldn't see that she had had an accident at third grade. We've had students who have had kidney stones. I can't say that the kidney stone is the direct result of this, but if a kid is having to hold their bladder all day, it's likely that this is happening. We had a fourth grade teacher who was in the room that is leaking in fourth grade. She was teaching her reading class and it literally leaked sewage down onto a child's head. And we still don't have places for them to go. So they got shoved into a storage room essentially for their class. But this problem wasn't fixed. The solution was close the bathroom. Since 2020, when this started in the fall of the 2020-21 school year, the longest stretch we've had functioning bathrooms in the third grade building is from the start of this school year, when the problem was fixed, when 15 teachers from the school wrote testimony about how this problem has been occurring for all these years and impacted all of these kids. They came and fixed it. But they didn't rip out the plumbing. They fixed one spot and the leak just moved further down the piping to a new space. It's no longer just a deluge down the wall. It's now out into the middle of classrooms. And so since the fall of 2020, the longest we've had functioning bathrooms in the third grade building has been from the start of this school year until the end of October. And we'll go without functioning bathrooms for 3 to 6 months before DAGS hires a plumber. They don't have plumbers on staff at the Department of Accounting and General Services out here on the Big Island. And so they have to find plumbers. And because of the protocol of DOE, we have to go through DAGS. The school can't just call up a plumber and be like, hey, can you send somebody out immediately? We have to go through. So our admin is doing their due diligence. They're filing the paperwork. They're submitting the requests. But we don't have plumbers on staff at DAGS, so we have to wait for them to outsource it to somebody. And our school isn't allowed to just call up and be like, we've got this emergency situation where sewage is leaking on children. Come fix this.
Frustrating.
Thank you.
Very frustrating. And then, so you folks know, there are a lot of elementary schools that are very small in this state, but as Rabia talked about, you guys are bursting at the seams. What is your approximate student population there? It's one of the biggest elementary schools in the state, right? Kealakehe?
We're pushing around 980 to 1,000 right now.
Right. So when they talk about this, right, they're talking about like, well, they have to go from one building to another. It's actually a large campus, right? And for little kids to have to go all the way across campus to use a bathroom, it's kind of a big deal, right? That's your point. Okay, great. Thanks, Jill. And next we're going to hear from Joy Hanato. She is also I can't remember Jill, sorry. Joy is, you've been a resource teacher there most recently, but you've been a teacher there for more than a decade. And her classrooms also experienced leaks going back some years, and she's going to share a little bit about, one incident some years back, just to show you this is not a new problem, clearly.
Right. My name is Joy Hanato, and I am a resource teacher for Kealakehe Elementary School now. So I teach all 900 something kids. At the time that the leak happened in my classroom, it was in the F building and it was the fall of 2016. Before I went into that room, I had begged the principal to promise me that there would be no leak because I was well aware of leaks happening in that class in the past. Um, September of that school year, I walked into the classroom, opened it up, was getting ready for my day. Well, before I could get ready for my day, I noticed that the ceiling tile had a hole in it as big as its width, and there was brown liquid and spongy stuff from the ceiling tile on the ground, and I was kind of in shock and not knowing what to do. So I called the principal, whom I was very upset with because she promised that wouldn't happen. And the bell rang, let the kids in. The kids had to get warned not to walk over that because it was unsanitary. And I had, we all have kids that have those behaviors. I actually broke down that day because I was so upset and I started crying. And I told the principal who showed up at the class that she had promised me that this was not going to happen. And here it happened. And that little boy gave me the biggest squeeze and told me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened in our class. I'm so sorry. And I was asked to just keep teaching for the day. I chose to take the kids out of that unsanitary classroom and teach in the cafeteria. So that's what I did. And that was in 2016. It's about 9 years ago.
Thank you, Joy. It's very frustrating. Finally, we're going to hear from Susan Tanaka. She is a longtime third grade teacher there at Kealakehe, and she can, provide the perspectives on these many years of problems and the effect on the student body. Susan.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Susan Tanaka, and I teach third grade there. I have been at the school since 2006, and a concern that I have, my classroom is, well, I'm in the third grade building, so I'm affected by the bathrooms being closed, but my room has not been leaked on. But a concern that I have besides the sanitary conditions for my colleagues and their students is just student safety. The third graders, when their bathrooms work, they can use the bathroom in their building with their peers, with their classroom usually in the line of sight. So a teacher can see who's in the entranceways of the bathrooms, who's, kind of hanging out and who's leaving right on time, or if someone's taking too long, we can kind of pop out of a room and check the bathrooms. When the bathrooms are closed, however, the third graders do have to go find alternate bathrooms, which means they are now mixing with sometimes second graders, sometimes fourth graders in the closest bathrooms. This can cause behavior issues, and then we can't see. We can't see because those bathrooms are out of our line of sight. They're with other mixed grade levels, so we might not necessarily know who the other students are involved with any problems that come up. And it becomes a long waiting time for them to use the bathroom. So, in that sense, they miss out on a lot of learning. And just the transition of waiting to use a bathroom that was once right across the hall has now become quite an adventure for these kids. So that's my biggest concern, is just safety. Where are the kids at? Where are they and who are they with?
Thank you so much, Susan. And I've been putting some stuff in the chat for you folks to review, and I can email this to you. Wanted to point out before we get to some of your questions here that a teacher did notice the brown water leaking from the bottom of the staff toilet up, in that floor above the third grade where there was the leak on Monday. They noticed that a month before on October 17th and began telling the administration and, saying, hey, something needs to be done. Clearly, enough wasn't done. And boy, we have the leaks this week. Just so you folks know, that's in that timeline that I just shared in the chat. And we're going to get to some questions now. Bryce Moore from KHON2 is first. Hi, Bryce.
Hey, thank you, Keoki. Yeah, I mean, for the teachers who have experienced this leakage, can you describe the smell? I mean, what is it like in your classrooms?
For us, I wouldn't put it in like raw sewage, like overwhelming. It's like a sick, it makes you kind of feel sick. So it's like a little bit of um fecal smell and a little bit of just like wet things that are old and wet. So it just makes you a little like nauseous to smell it. It wasn't overpowering, but also like I said, it's a special education classroom, so we have some kids that are just really, really sensitive. So, and even my co-teacher, every time she walked in the room, she would have like her throat and nose didn't feel right because I think it's like the ceiling itself is made of something that I don't know. And so it being wet, we have like brown spots all over the ceiling. I think that's part of what just makes the room generally not the air doesn't feel great. But yeah, that smell was like I wish I had better words, but that's what I can say.
Yeah, I mean, how does that affect your ability to do your job?
I mean, it just makes everything harder because they already have trouble concentrating. It's hot half the time. We have like 6 fans running. I have like this air purifier running. I don't even know if it's working. And we have just kids that are easily distracted. So it just adds this other, like another layer of something gross and something that I can't blame them for interrupting about because it's gross. So it's not their fault that it's gross. And so it just makes it hard to want to, like, I can't really shut them down and say, hey, I'm teaching, get your focus back. I can say it, but I'm equally disgusted. I'm just trying to ignore it. I'm standing at the front, so I'm not like under it the way that they are. So it just makes everything harder. We already have absent kids that get sick, kids that leave, then they come back and they don't know what we taught and we don't have enough time to teach everything. And so it's just adds like this, other layer. That's how it makes it harder.
Yeah, thank
At
you.
least for me. I don't know about the others. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Thanks. And then Ben from Hawaii News Now, Ben Gutierrez.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I guess from my understanding is that Kealakehe, has the large student population, and really there are no alternatives for you to go to another space. I mean, how, I heard that one teacher say that they went to the cafeteria at one point. But are there any options on other places where to go? Because I know that this would be very frustrating, and having familiarity with, being related to teachers and so forth, that it's very hard to try and transplant that educational area of the classroom into another spot where you have all your supplies and you have all of the visual things on the walls and you have basically that's your lab, that's your classroom. How do you deal with that, as far as like not having enough space, or if you have to move to another space, is that an option?
I'm going to chime in here. Joy Hanato again, resource teacher for Kealakehe Elementary. I teach about the 900 some odd students that we have. And I was a fourth grade teacher when the ceiling collapsed in the classroom. And I will say that it smelt a little like funky pee. And the kids noticed it as well. But I am now a resource teacher. The campus is undergoing construction right now. So it's a very interesting time with every classroom used for Success for All reading and response to intervention classes, that every space is being used. So I wouldn't know where Miss Akhter and her co-teacher would go. As it stands, resource teachers had to move out of our portable building and into the underground of the F building, where it's there's still evidence of leakage in that room too, that I had just took a picture of and sent to administration. And their hands really are tied. I do believe they're doing everything in their power that they can do, but I think that it's the other department that needs to get things done on the Big Island that needs some fixing, because to outsource, and we're waiting how many days since this happened in Rabia's class? Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's not clean, and the kids deserve better.
And I'll say they don't even have a room. We have 2 students in the 2nd grade that are in wheelchairs and need changing, like diaper changing. They don't even have a space for that. They were sharing our reading class space for that. That smells like actual poop. It's like not safe or fair for the kids who are getting changed. So they didn't even, when I asked about that, they said they didn't even have space for that. So in this case, my co-teacher did ask, can we move to another room? I don't think we even got a response, but she made the decision that that moving to the cafeteria would be even more distracting. So we just didn't even do it.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Next, we have Megan Tagami from Honolulu Civil Beat. Hi, Megan.
Hi, thank you. Um, I had 2 questions. One was for Rabia. I was wondering, in the video that um we were shown, it looked like there were like multiple leaks on the ceiling, or multiple holes, and I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about what has and hasn't been fixed at this point. And then the other question I was wondering was, is this problem primarily in the E and F buildings, or are there any others that are affected as well?
So, yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, possibly 8 brown spots in around our ceiling in different spots. So one of them is an actual hole, like the size of like a silver dollar. We don't actually know where that one came from. They think that might be the boys' bathroom. That one hasn't been fixed since October 31st. Then the major leak that broke the panels, that has been just replaced with a panel. So there's no brown spot there anymore. And allegedly it's not leaking anymore because they turned the water off. The other spots, we really have no idea. Like, I don't know if it's a current leak or an old leak, or if like we'll find out in a few days or what. One of them is kind of far to the other side of the room, which makes me think it's actually the girls' bathroom, which is the only one that they haven't closed down. So, yeah, that's all. I've talked to the custodians and they kind of said the same thing of just like, it's like DAGS comes and fixes one little leak and then it just ends up causing it somewhere else. Like the entire plumbing would need to be changed. And I'll also add that I'm pretty sure there's rats I could hear them in the ceiling. So that was a fear of mine with the panel open, was that something could just fall out from the ceiling. I'm really grossed out even talking about that. The other question, I guess somebody else can answer. I don't know.
Hi, Susan Tanaka. I can talk about, I believe currently this week, the administration office, adult bathrooms, there's only adult bathrooms in there, were out of order. So the plumbing issue is running pretty rampant throughout our school. I went to the elementary school years ago, many, many moons ago, and I don't think it's been ever renovated since, I mean, they did a facelift, but to think about the amount of students back then compared to now, we just can't, we're bursting at the seams. The plumbing cannot handle the amount of staff and students that are at the school.
Jill Jacobs, I'm going to add on to what Susan said. The buildings that third and fourth grade are in are some of the original buildings from the school. The school, I believe, is 55 years old this year. And we've not had any major renovations to the third grade building, the fourth grade building, in the time that I've been there, and they've not even been painted on the outside in the 10 years that I've been there. And so they fix the leak, like Rabia said, and it just goes further down. What really needs to happen is they need to rip out all of the plumbing from those bathrooms on the second story in both the third and fourth grade, the ENF buildings, and replace all of it to stop these leaks, and probably replace the toilets as well. That's my opinion, not as a professional plumber or anything, but like, I think replacing all of those things would have the potential to solve this issue. But the buildings are about 50, 55 years old, and it's not just ENF building. The ones in the office that Susan was speaking of are frequently out of order. And so those were where we were going, where the third grade teachers were going during the day, and then now those are broken as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And Kiveli from the Hawaii Tribune Herald.
Hi, thank you so much. I also have two questions. My first one is regarding the parents. I'm curious what the response has been from the parents, and if you've had any parents that have let you guys know, hey, I'm not going to be letting my kid come to school until this is repaired, if you've had any of that. So that's my first question, is just the response from the parents.
For our class, the first leak that happened to be during parent-teacher conferences. So the parents saw it because we were asking them to walk around. So at least one set of parents was pretty disturbed by it, and we asked them, we said, please feel free to complain about it to our admin, because we weren't sure at that point if we were going to be listened to or not. And now I understand better that it's not really our admin, they already put the order in. And so they did complain. And then another parent who happens to be a construction worker, he was outside waiting for his child at the end of the day when the bigger leak happened. And he was just trying to offer some advice and ask, what is the school doing about it? Because he could see it. I don't think any parents specifically have wanted to keep their kids home, but I do have one student who's just super sensitive, and he has been feeling kind of sick for like a week, and not a normal kind of sick. And I really do wonder how it's being affected. But a lot of our kids' parents, like, they have so much going on that it's really hard to like keep track of, like, is their kid like really sick? Do they need to stay home, or is it coming from the school? And we haven't told the parents really anything. So it's just the parents who happen to see it.
I understand. And before I ask my second question, did any other teachers want to comment on the parents' question? Well, thank you so much, Rabia. My second question is just with regards to potentially reaching out. DAGS is the department that you were speaking about that you're hoping that will do more, correct? And is there a discussion amongst the faculty about reaching out beyond that to the county? Any discussion of possibly submitting any, I don't know if it would be a grant proposal situation, but sort of the path forward to the replacement that Jill was talking about, which could ultimately be the solution? Has there been discussion about making any contacts or establishing any kind of fundraising towards that yet?
As far as I know, there has not been any discussion with that, because we've followed the protocol, and that would be outside of the repair protocol. In a conversation I had with admin last year, we had a leak on one of the fields, a pipe leak, and it was an emergency situation. It happened on a weekend, and it caused the field to be very soggy because the pipe was leaking underneath it. And she contacted DAGs and they couldn't get anybody out. And because this pipe is literally on a field that not only is used by our campus, but used by the intermediate school campus next door, she called in a plumber on a weekend and paid out of our school budget to fix it, but then was told by DOE that because she paid for it out of her budget and didn't go through the protocols of going to DAGs and wait for them to get a plumber out there, that if that fix didn't repair it and it breaks again, the school will then again have to use it out of the school's budget, not out of DOE's budget, because DOE wasn't the one who contracted this.
Wow, that is really heartbreaking. I'm so sorry for you all that you have to deal with that. And thank you so much for giving all this information today.